So welcome to my Sibling Rivalry webinar. Now, sibling rivalry has always had a bad press. Think of Cain slaughtering Abel and Joseph being thrown down the well and sold by his brothers because they were jealous of his beautiful multicoloured coat. Well, in this webinar, we'll look at what sibling rivalry is, why it happens, and what you can do about it. So let's get started. Sibling rivalry can apply to any child living in the same family, from stepbrothers and sisters to blood-related brothers and sisters. It refers to the jealousy, the competition, the teasing and the fighting that goes on between them. And all the experts seem to agree that it stems from your child's deep desire and need for your exclusive love, and their need for your attention and their sense of identity, self-worth and specialness within your family. Now, while many kids are lucky enough to become the best of friends with their siblings, it's common for brothers and sisters to fight. It's also common for them to swing back and forth between adoring and detesting one another. And often, sibling rivalry starts even before the second child is born, and it continues as your children grow and compete for everything from toys to attention. And as kids reach different stages of development, their evolving needs can significantly affect how they relate to one another. It can be really frustrating and upsetting actually too, can't it, to watch and to hear when your kids fight with one another. And a household that's full of conflict is stressful for everyone. Yet often it's hard to know how to stop the fighting or even whether you should get involved at all. But you can take steps to promote peace in your household and help your kids get along. And I believe the first step is simply to have the intention that you are going to teach your children that they should love and support each other as part of your family. They are part of your family team. Now, I taught my own children, Will and Molly, that they are important individually as well as being part of the team family Atkins. And we held that intention. We created that environment and we nurtured their connection. And of course, they had their ups and downs, and they still do now and again, of course, even though they don't live together anymore and they're 24 and 26. But they generally get on really well, sharing jokes as well as memories. And they are always there for each other. Now, we taught them to respect their similarities as well as their differences, and we nurtured and we encouraged their bond. Whether you are a birth parent, step parent, nanny or carer, you too can talk and teach respect and fill up each child's self-esteem so high that they don't have to feel the need to steal it from their brother or sister. So let's take a look now at how you can do that. And let's look at why siblings fight. Well, siblings fight for a number of reasons. They fight because they want your parental attention, and you naturally only have so much time, attention, and patience to give them all. They fight because they're jealous. He got a new bike, I didn't. You must love him more than you love me. They fight over ordinary teasing, which is a way of testing the effects of behaviour and words on another person. He called me, but she called me first. And they fight because they're growing up in a competitive society that teaches them that to win is to be better. I saw it first. I beat you to the water, that sort of thing. They are vying for your attention. And if they don't feel valued or feel that they're getting equal amounts of your love and approval, they will fight for it, as they don't always know positive ways to get you to notice or to respond to them. And any attention is better than no attention. Now, many different things can cause siblings to fight. Most brothers and sisters experience some degree of jealousy or competition, and this, of course, can flare up into squabbles and bickering. But other factors also might influence how often kids fight and how severe the fighting can get. And these include their evolving needs. Now, it's natural for your child's changing needs, anxieties, and their growing sense of identity to affect how they relate to one another. For example, toddlers are naturally protective of their toys and their belongings because they're learning to assert their will, which they do at every turn. So, if a baby brother or sister picks up the toddler's toy, the older child may react aggressively. School-aged children often have a strong concept of fairness and equality, so they might not understand why siblings of other ages are treated differently, or they may feel that one of their brothers and sisters seems to get preferential treatment, even if they're not. Now, teenagers, on the other hand, are developing a sense of individuality and independence, and they might resent helping with household responsibilities, taking care of younger siblings, or even having to spend time together with them. So all of these differences can influence the way your kids fight with one another. Also, of course, their different individual temperaments and personalities can affect how they get on, because your kids all have different moods, they've got different dispositions and adaptability, and their unique personalities, of course, play a large role in how well they get along. For example, if one child is laid back and another is easily rattled, they may often get into a row. Similarly, if your child is especially clingy and drawn to you for comfort and love, well, then your other child might resent them for doing that, thinking that they get more love or attention than they do. Many different things, of course, can affect siblings and cause them to fight, and most brothers and sisters do experience some degree of jealousy or competition, and as we've said, this can flare into squabbles and bickering. But other factors also might influence how often kids fight and how severe the fighting gets. So let's look at those, because these include role models. The way you as parents resolve problems and disagreements amongst yourselves sets a really strong example for your children. So that might be an area for you to pause to ponder. How do you handle conflict or disagreements with your partner? Because your kids are learning from you all the time. If you and your partner work through conflicts in a way that's respectful, productive, and not aggressive, you will increase the chances that your children will adopt these tactics when they run into problems with one another, because they've learnt them by watching and listening and learning from you. If your kids see you routinely shout, slam doors, and loudly argue when you have problems, then of course they're likely to pick those up too, and they're perhaps bad habits that you perhaps don't want them to copy. You perhaps want them to do different things and react in a different way. But they will copy what you do, not what you say. Now, if your child has special needs or is sick, that also may affect the balance in your family. Sometimes your child's special needs due to illness or learning or emotional issues may require more of your parental time. And your other children may pick up on this disparity and play up, becoming demanding or naughty to get your attention. Or they may act out of fear of what's happening to the other child, as they don't fully understand what's happening. So try and explain to your child what's happening and make quality time to play, to have fun, and to chat to them, to build their self-esteem and their significance within your family. Now let's look at teenagers. Well, teens fight for the same reasons that younger children fight, but teenagers are bigger, louder, and better equipped physically and intellectually now to hurt and be hurt by words and actions. From a parent's point of view, they ought to be old enough to stop that kind of behaviour. But what a lot of parents that I work with tend to forget is that teenagers are under a lot of pressure from many different directions these days. There's physical, hormonal, and emotional changes as well. And there's changes happening in their maturity and in their thinking which can also cause pressure on them. And then you add peer pressure, and they're changing relationships with you as they strive for more independence, and you've got a cocktail for more general conflict in your family and amongst your kids. Your teenager may be concerned about real or imagined problems between you, and they feel pressure about their future as adults and about learning to become an adult. And sometimes they feel a bit scared of it all, and they look for ways to get your attention or to get noticed. And in many ways, teens are in greater need than ever for your parental love, for your attention and concern, and for a belief that they are as good as their siblings. They ultimately need your understanding. Now, your teenager may not recognize these needs or may be too embarrassed to express them verbally. So fighting with siblings is a great or an easy way to get your attention, just like younger children also do. So your job is to start to be aware of this aspect to your relationships and to nurture your teenager's need to feel more grown up, yet supported, as they really aren't that grown up, are they? They're in transition. So try not to treat them at 14 as if they are only 4, and respect their need for more privacy or time away from their siblings, but try and find that happy balance to keep them grounded and connected to everyone in the family. So one way we did that was to watch Top Gear on a Sunday with the kids, and we could all enjoy a film perhaps on a Friday night, tucking into some popcorn. Look at simple ways to bring the family together, because these days more and more kids are isolated in their bedrooms watching all sorts of different programs on different devices, and they can soon learn to sort of tap out of the family dynamic. So keep connected by some simple things, even if it's a dog walk or a board game. Now, there is a practical exercise for you to try now that I've taken from my best-selling book, Parenting Made Easy: How to Raise Happy Children. Now, the exercise is on the accompanying handout with this webinar, and it's designed to change your perspective on being a sibling. And it's designed to help you to realise that you can make a difference in the lives of your kids by either intensifying competition or by reducing it. And you can now accelerate the fighting, or you can make cooperation a way of life in your home. So look out for that handout, which will be attached to this webinar. So you can download it, grab a coffee and a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, and enjoy sort of answering some of the questions that I pose to get your, get you thinking in a different way, perhaps from the way your children are thinking. Because having a brother or sister could represent less time with you in the eyes of your child. There's less attention. There's less time for talking together, less time for sharing fun together. Perhaps there's less time to be heard when they have a worry, less toys, less food, less help with homework, less space, someone who might be better at things than they are, and somebody who could perhaps shine in things that, the other child can't do. Perhaps they could excel in areas that, they can't. And of course, you could have been the apple of your parents' eye, because they do all those amazing things that your parents value and think is great. And suddenly there's a usurper to take away the time, attention, and the amazement around you. So it's an interesting exercise to help you think about these things, because you might get an understanding and an insight how it feels to be a sibling in your home. Just think back over your own life. The hurts, the disappointments, and the memories that have shaped you when you think of your own brothers and sisters. Think of things that have happened to you. Think of things you've seen, or you've heard, or you've felt, both positive and possibly negative. Because this is just to get you to really tap into the world from your children's point of view. Now, I want you to see things from a different perspective and to see things from your child's point of view again. It's about realising that you can make a difference in the lives of your kids by either intensifying competition in your home or by reducing it. You can now accelerate the fighting or make cooperation a way of life in your home. Like nightmares or sleepwalking, sibling rivalry is one of the inevitable consequences of having children. The clashes, the attention-seeking, the digs, the jibes, the mini or sometimes major battles that go on at home, where you sometimes feel like a Premiership referee, stuck in the middle, trying to be fair and trying to get all things right. And it's all part of bringing up kids, but it's all about how you perceive your role and what you choose to do about it. I think it's all about your attitude first and the atmosphere that you want to create in your home and the types of relationships you want to develop in your children. I remember working with a mum who wanted her children to be friends. And as a result of that, she felt she was constantly riding a roller coaster at Disneyland in which she had no control. And every time they played nicely, she felt great and a good mum. Yet every time they fought, she felt a failure and she felt despair. She said to me, I remember, "They hate each other and it's my fault," she kept saying. But I helped her let go of this idea, and I helped her to see her job as a mum in a new way, because that then freed up her energy and also freed up and built up her confidence. So instead of worrying about her children becoming friends, she started to see her job as equipping them with the attitudes and skills that they needed to learn for all of their caring relationships in life, as well as in their sibling relationship. She started to move away from who was right or who was wrong to how she could teach them about respect, respecting their differences, as well as learning ways to resolve their differences. And from there, she moved on to helping them learn how to celebrate their individuality, to enjoying their similarities and respecting their unique and different talents and abilities and their very different skills. She taught them how to build what I call the team mentality, so important in a family that gets on together. And they started to celebrate each other's successes, and they learned not to see them as their own failures. For example, they celebrated when one of them scored a goal in their Sunday football team, or one of them won a swimming gala, or recognising that one of them was good at maths while the other was very good at English. So it wasn't a competition anymore. It was about friendship and love and respect for each other as brothers and sisters. So it really changed their attitude to each other. She taught them that respect is the key energy of any successful and happy family. She taught them also the we rather than the me mentality, because I believe that to be so important again in family life, because I think it builds trust, support, loyalty, love, and a true foundation for security and self-esteem. So if you learn nothing else on this webinar tonight or today, think about the we, how you can shift to the we mentality of a team rather than the me mentality. I think it's helpful to have the attitude of being high on harmony and low on rivalry, because I believe if you have this as your goal, lots and lots of things begin to fall into place. Now, let me tell you about my crucial C's, and I have done webinars on this before and written a great deal about my crucial C's, so check back for the crucial C webinar, but here's an overview of how I believe that the crucial C's will transform your parenting and your child's behaviour, as well as building and nurturing your child's confidence and self-esteem. And I definitely believe it will reduce sibling rivalry. Now, the crucial C's are connection, capability, counting, and courage. Now, the children in trouble who have high sort of aggression and sibling rivalry usually are missing out on four important necessities to manage life's challenges. They're missing feeling connected to others, whether that is you, your family, or the community. They're missing feeling capable, which means to take care of themselves. And they're missing feeling valuable, that they count, that they matter, and that they make a difference. They're also missing courage, because these four fundamentals are needed for children to feel that they can meet and manage the challenges of family life, as well as living generally. So the crucial C's give children the feeling that when we connect, that we're capable and that we count, that they have courage as well. It will go a long way to enhance a positive attitude about life, and it will give it meaning and purpose. And by embracing these very simple principles, you will transform your parenting and become better at understanding the goals behind your child's behaviour and their needs, because these simple principles will empower you with better ways to raise a happy, confident, resilient child with strong self-esteem and good mental health and good family relationships. Now, if you ensure that your children feel connected and capable and courageous and that they count, they will really feel valuable in society too, and they will take on life and make it work for them. They will develop a can-do kid mindset, which I talk a great deal about and have in my can-do kid journal, which has lots and lots of ideas about how to give children that can-do, have-a-go mindset, no matter what life throws at them. And they'll also have a positive mental attitude and a good mental health. And they will feel that their family is a safe place where they belong, which of course includes their brothers and sisters looking out for them. Because kids who are brought up with the crucial C's become responsible, productive, cooperative, self-reliant, resilient, resourceful, contributing, and happy. So, how about for this week then? Just start to notice the ways that you talk to your children and how you spend time with them individually. And if you don't spend time with them individually, try and carve out a natural time for you to sit with them or play with them or talk with them. One of the ones that I used to do with my own son was on a Thursday evening going up to football training. We used to drive up together, and at first I sort of resented driving through all the traffic jams, but it soon became apparent that this is our time when we could chinwag and chat, when we could sometimes talk about Chelsea, that was his team and our team, or we could just listen to the radio, or sometimes we could talk deep and meaningful, and we could share some ideas, and I'd pass on my wisdom about what I thought about certain things, and I was involved in my son's life. So that was a simple way to spend time with him, filling up what I call his emotional bucket. And I also noticed that it encourages and nurtures the we spirit of the family team. Now, if you don't like what you discover when you have a sort of a camcorder on your shoulder just for this week, don't beat yourself up. Just make a commitment to trying some new approaches over the next week and pat yourself on the back when you start to notice an all-round improvement. And it may be 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. But by spending time talking, playing, listening and chatting with your individual children, you are telling them the message that they are important. And you may just create the Brady Bunch after all. So let's look at what to do when the fighting starts. While it may be common for brothers and sisters to fight, it's certainly not pleasant for anyone in the house. And a family can only tolerate a certain amount of conflict, really, can't it? So what should you do when the fighting starts? Well, wherever possible, don't get involved. We often, as parents, step in to rescue too soon. But I would suggest you just pause to ponder, obviously weigh up the situation. Don't allow them to hit 6 bells out of each other, but step in only then if there is a danger of physical harm. They are learning to negotiate, and they are learning how to sort of handle difficult situations. So don't always rush in to sort things out or to rescue one child from the other. But of course, do step in if there is danger of physical harm. If you always intervene all the time, you risk creating other problems, because your kids may start expecting your help and waiting for you to come to the rescue rather than learning to work out the problems on their own. And there's also the risk that you, inadvertently, make it appear to one child that another one is always being protected, which really actually could foster even more resentment. So just pause to ponder. By the same token, rescue kids may feel that they can get away with more because they're always being saved by you or by another parent. So help your children pause to ponder how you can teach them to negotiate, how to compromise and find their own solutions where possible, because that is where the practice really helps in real life, because that's what they're doing. They are practicing for when they're at work or when they're in their own adult relationships. So help them now when they're younger to learn these skills and start solution focusing. That will really help them long term. But if you're concerned by the language used or name calling, it is of course appropriate to coach your kids through what they're feeling by using appropriate words and talking and teaching them. Because this is different from intervening or stepping in and separating them. Ask them better questions and ask them what they could do differently next time. And even then, encourage them to resolve the crisis for themselves if you can. If you do step in, try to resolve problems with your kids, not for them. There's a big difference between resolving problems with them. Learn to ask better questions when you're teaching your children. When you're getting involved, here are some steps to consider. Well, you need to separate your kids until they're calm sometimes, don't you? And sometimes it's best just to give them space for a little while and not immediately rehash the conflict. Otherwise, the fight can escalate all over again. So sometimes you need to sort of separate them. I'm not a fan of putting kids on naughty steps particularly, or sending them away to their room necessarily for long periods of time. But sometimes if it has escalated a bit, they just need a calming down corner or a few minutes to themselves. And then you need to sort of break the pattern around what's happened. So I think then have the intention to make this a learning experience. So wait until the emotions have died down. I always say strike when the iron is cold. That's one of my favourite expressions. And then that will help them learn what escalated it, what was the triggers perhaps leading up to it, and what they could do differently next time. And what did they learn from the experience? So what I call failing forward. Now, don't put too much focus on figuring out which child is to blame, because it does take two to fight, let's face it. So anyone who's involved is partly responsible. So try to set up a win-win situation so that each child gains something. They don't feel they lose face. So say, for example, they both want the same toy, perhaps. There's a game that they could play together instead. Divert them into something else. So that have that mentality of a win-win. Remember, as kids cope with disputes, they also learn important skills that will serve them for life, like how to value each other person's perspective, or how to compromise, or how to negotiate, or how to actually to control their aggressive impulses. Simple things you can do every day to prevent fighting include setting some ground rules for acceptable behaviour. So tell your children to keep their hands to themselves and that there's no swearing or no name calling or no yelling or no door slamming. So, get the kids perhaps to draw or write out or create some family rules around what you think is acceptable and stick them up in the fridge so that you can see them regularly when you're in the kitchen. Perhaps sit down one dinner time and ask for their help in drawing up your family rules. Ask them to also suggest what could be some consequences when they break the rules, because this teaches kids that they're responsible for their own actions, regardless of the situation or how provoked they felt. And it discourages any attempts to negotiate regarding who was right or who was wrong, because I think it helps them buy in to the whole process. Now, don't let your children make you think that every single thing always has to be fair and equal, because sometimes one child needs more than the other at certain times. Perhaps if one is ill or a child has special needs, it cannot all be completely fair and completely equal. But if you have that overall view, then I'm sure you'll find that real balance. Be proactive in giving your kids one-on-one attention directed to their interests and their needs, because this cuts down on competitiveness and sibling rivalry. So, for example, if one of your children likes to go outdoors riding their bike, then take a walk or go to the park with them. And perhaps if another of your children likes to sit and read, well, make time for that too. Focus on what they like to do and feed their need for your time and attention in the way that they like to receive it. Also, make sure that your kids do have their own space and have their own time to do their own thing. Let them play with toys by themselves sometimes, or to play with friends without a sibling tagging along, or to enjoy activities without having to share 50-50 all the time. Show and tell your kids that for you, love is not something that comes with limits. Let them know that they are safe, important, and loved, and that their needs will be met. And also, I think one simple thing is to have fun together as a family. Whether you're watching a film, playing with a ball, or playing a board game, you're establishing a peaceful way for your kids to spend time together and relate to each other. And this can help ease tensions between them and also keeps you involved. Because actually, it's parental attention is something that many kids fight over, and family fun activities can really help reduce that conflict. How about creating a schedule? If your children frequently squabble over the same things, such as technology, games, or their turn on the TV remote, post a schedule showing which child owns that item at what time of the week. But if they keep fighting about it, take the prize away altogether. If fights between your school-age kids are frequent, hold weekly family meetings where you can repeat the rules about fighting and review past successes in reducing conflicts. Consider establishing a program where your kids earn points towards a family-orientated activity when they work together to stop battling. Recognize when your children just need time apart from each other and the family dynamics. So how about trying arranging separate play dates or activities for each child differently occasionally? Then when one child is on a play date, you can spend one-on-one time with the other one. Keep in mind that sometimes children fight to get your parental attention, and in that case, consider taking a time out of your own. When you leave, the incentive for fighting is gone. So if you step out, step back, step away, then that incentive perhaps is gone. Also, when your own fuse is getting short, consider handing the reins over to the other parent, whose patience may be greater at that moment. In a small percentage of families, the conflict between brothers and sisters is so severe that it disrupts daily functioning or particularly affects kids emotionally or psychologically. Now, of course, in those cases, it's wise to get help from a mental health professional. So when to get help? Well, seek help for sibling conflict, really, if it is so severe that it's leading to your marital problems. Perhaps it's creating a real danger of physical harm to any family member, or it's damaging to the self-esteem or psychological well-being of any family member. Or maybe it may be related to other significant, concerns such as depression. And if you find yourself ticking any of those boxes, do seek some professional help from your doctor. If you have any questions about your family fighting, talk with your doctor, who can help you determine whether your family might benefit from professional help, and they might refer you to a local behavioural health service. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd welcome your comments, your thoughts and your suggestions. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's @Sue Atkins. If you'd like to follow me on Facebook, it's Sue Atkins, the parenting expert. And head over to Instagram at Sue Atkins 18, where I've just started exploring how Instagram works. But this is something I want to give you as a thank you for joining me on this webinar. Here's a discount voucher for you to share with your family and with your friends. Just take SA10 Life, tell that to your family and to your friends if they're interested in joining my parenting club, because that will take off a lifetime discount of 10% from all my membership, for all of my services, for all of my products, for the Can Do Kid Journal, right the way through to all my MP3 downloads, you name it, that will take 10% discount off everything. So feel free to share that discount code with your family, friends, or schools. And so that's it for today. So next month, we're going to be talking a webinar and doing a webinar all around sleep. So jump in and join in with that one very, very soon. Until next time, take care.